Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hi, I'm Richard Frieder. I'm Director of Community Engagement here at Hartford Public Library, and my pleasure to welcome you here for this program on the Hartford Regional Market. Those of you who know Hartford at all would probably agree that it's really a great time to be in Hartford. There are a lot of terrific things happening. There's momentum building. It's an exciting time. So that's why we're especially happy to be working tonight with Hartford 2000 to bring you this program about the Hartford Regional Market, because it's a great example of one of the exciting things happening in Hartford. Although this particular project, I think, there's not very much known about it yet. So we're really delighted to provide this opportunity to get some information, maybe discuss it a little, get a little question and answer going. So before I turn it over to Jackie McKinney from Hartford 2000, I, of course, as I always do, those of you who are regulars here know, take this opportunity to tell you about some of the things coming up here at the library. And there's too many to mention here at once, but I will mention a few of them. And everything I'm going to talk about, there is information on the back table here. This Saturday, in this room, we're doing a People's Budget Session. This is an opportunity for anybody to come and participate, have direct and real input into the city budget planning process for the next fiscal year. The mayor will be here, some members of the city council will be here, and we'll go through a process that allows you to essentially balance the budget, coming up with a scenario to balance the budget. So we hope you'll join us. That starts at 9:30 this Saturday. On Sunday at 3 o'clock, we have the next session in our Baby Grand Jazz series. Many of you have probably been to some of the Baby Grand Jazz concerts. This Sunday, it's Nelson Bello. And that continues, the series continues through the end of April. Out on the first floor here, just went in the other day, there's a great exhibit that's actually a traveling exhibit from the Smithsonian called The Way We Worked, and I invite you to take a look at that. In April, we have a literary fair coming up on April 5th, and we have 2 weeks of poetry events in April in various places around the city, from April 7th to the 19th. So there's so much going on here at the library that you really don't have to leave. You might as well just stay here, and we'll put you up, and you'll be ready for the next event tomorrow. But anyhow, thank you again. We're really excited that you're here, really excited to be working in partnership with Hartford 2000. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jackie McKinney from Hartford 2000.
Thank you, Richard. I'd say this is another great collaboration between the library and the neighborhoods. On behalf of Bernadine Silvers and myself, we're co-chairs of Hartford 2000. We welcome you to this fabulous, I haven't seen anything, but it sounds fabulous to me. And particularly if I don't have to get up at 5 in the morning to go to the farmer's market. It goes up to 20 notches. So I'm really happy to be here. And so we can get on our way. I just want to remind you the green feedback form. This is really important to us. This is how we find out what works and what doesn't work, although I'm sure this one will work, so we can bring you more programming. And without further ado, let me introduce you to our speaker for this evening. His name is Ted Spitzer. Did I pronounce it correctly? Good. Ted is the president of Market Ventures, Inc. He is nationally recognized expert on food markets and alternative local food systems. His core competencies include feasibility analysis, market research, urban planning, and program evaluation. For 25 years, Ted has helped the communities throughout the country develop, revitalize, and improve their public markets and the neighborhoods around them. He's worked in cities such as Portland, Maine, Boise, Idaho, Lynchburg, Virginia, as well as New York City and our own New Haven, Connecticut. Ted co-authored the book Public Markets and Community Revitalization in 1995, which has been called the definitive guide to the field. The Connecticut Department of Agriculture has asked Ted to help develop a master plan that will seek to redevelop the Hartford regional market. into one of the best regional food hubs in the country. Tonight, he will tell us about the progress thus far and talk about some of the best examples of regional markets in the country. And then at the end, I'm sure there will be time for questions. So without further ado, I'd like to have Ted come up. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that generous introduction. I'm very glad to be here. I met the folks at Hartford 2000 a few months ago and did a somewhat similar presentation, and Richard was there and got enthusiastic about doing an event here at the library, and I said I'd be glad to do that when I'm in town. I'm especially glad to be at the library. For the last 14 years, I've been a trustee of the Portland Public Library, where I live in Portland, Maine. I'm also the president of the Friends of the Library, so it's always great to be in a library situation setting, to do these kind of presentations. Thank you all for being here today. I'm real curious, has anyone here been to the Hartford Regional Market? Anyone, yeah. Anyone here not been to the Hartford Regional Market? A few people, okay, great. So I'll try to give some overview. I've been involved with this project since we started in September. And I've had the great pleasure of working with two excellent state departments, Department of Agriculture and the Department of Construction Services. With us tonight is Commissioner Stephen Revitsky of the Department of Agriculture. So Stephen, if you'd stand up. And so he's my client on this project, and he's been extremely engaged, intelligent overlord. No, so it's been a very interesting project. So as you heard a little bit of background, so my company, we're based in Portland, Maine, where I live, and we work around the country. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, I failed to introduce Linda Piotrowicz. That's close enough. Also from the Department of Agriculture, to sit with us tonight. So my company, we work all around the country, working on food markets, public markets, some retail, some wholesale, and we regularly get involved in these type of projects, and we try to bring the experiences of these projects, these other public markets from around the country to wherever we're working, but with the recognition that every public market is unique. It's very much a creature of its history, of its location, and of its agriculture. And so we very much, part of our work is understanding those aspects and respecting them and building from them while also learning from what other folks are doing around the country. So in that spirit is how we have approached this project. So the Hartford Regional Market, I think one of the most important things to know about it is where it's located. And as you know, in Hartford, you are right in an amazing corridor between Boston and New York, and the market itself located directly adjacent to two interstates. And from the wholesale food distribution point of view, that location is critical because it makes the market so well placed for the efficient transportation of food products. The market itself is a 32-acre facility owned by the state of Connecticut, originally built in the 1940s and 1950s. Many of the buildings that are there still date to that era. As we like to say, they are fully amortized. The state has gotten their value from those buildings, and it's a good time, maybe it was a good time a while ago, to think about replacing them, because while they have been very effective, and there have been many businesses have been successful there, they are worn, and it's time for replacement. There have been a few newer buildings. The most important, largest one is Fresh Point, which is owned by the Cisco Corporation, which is that building in the top corner. So that building opened in 2001. There are 16 permanent, but small, medium, and large-scale wholesale food tenants at the market. They mainly distribute produce, but also there is meat, there's milk and cheese, and there are dry goods sold at the market. So it's a range of products, not just produce. There is some food processing that happens at the market for meat, for cheese production, and for some value-added vegetables happens there. There are nearly 500 jobs represented at the regional market, so it's a pretty important employment center. There are many farmers who sell at the outdoor farmers market. Now, I imagine many people here who, when they went to the market, went to the retail market, so that's a part of what happens there. And different days of the week, particularly, of course, busy in the spring with the bedding plant season. And so farmers from around the region sell at the market. Connecticut farmers utilize the market in a variety of different ways. Some of them sell on a wholesale basis, and some of them sell on a retail basis. Some sell wholesale and retail. So when I say they're selling wholesale, they're selling to restaurants. They're sometimes selling to other farmers, and they're selling in large lots. Some of them also sell retail directly to consumers. And some farmers buy at the market to supplement what they have on their farm. So it's a very important hub already, has been, to support agriculture and farmers and all the farm stands and other things that are dotted throughout the state. And as you know, it's hugely popular in the spring during the bedding plant season. I bumped into people even where I live in Portland who from Connecticut. Oh yeah, my dad put me in the car at 4:30 and we'd be asleep in the back and we get to the market and we just did it every year. That was a ritual of our community. So that's a very interesting element. And again, a lot of people I've met throughout this process have talked about for decades going to the market and having that experience. And here are just some images of the retail farmers market. It again starts late at night and under lights and eventually gets a little lighter. People meet their friends there, and again that ritual is repeated year after year. But the structure itself, the farmers market structure, is, although it's not that old, it's really quite worn out, quite banged up. So we made the assumption as part of our master plan that we were not going to renovate these buildings. They do not meet modern standards, food safety. The cost of renovation would be high. So we were not looking just to renovate what's there for these older buildings, but feeling the need that they really need to be replaced. So our work has a variety of different pieces. I'm the lead consultant on the project and kind of doing most of the market research and planning. We also have land planners, landscape architects on the project. We have architects, we have engineers of different types, traffic engineers, and structural engineers and mechanical engineers and a bunch. So it's a good-sized team that's working on this and kind of addressing all of the issues that are important to understand. So looking at again, the wide range of how the site is used, what are the opportunities for expansion, what are the economic drivers of this. So part of it, this is an example of some of the work that we're looking at. There are various, like in any planning projects, there are certain constraints that we have to work with. Some of the major ones, including a very long-term land lease given to what's now Cisco for that pink area on the top of the slide. So they, previous administration thought it wise to give a 100-year lease to a company. And now they built a building there, what had been apparently swampy land, so they added value, and they employ a lot of people, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about the operation there, but it is a constraint on a plan when there's a 100-year lease. So that makes it a little more challenging in terms of what we can do on that piece of property. There are other things that happen at the market. The Department of Motor Vehicles does their truck testing there at the moment because there's some open land. So not all the land is being used to its greatest extent for the market purposes. So our master plan is being done in 3 phases. The first phase, which was completed in end of December, was kind of an orientation and assessment phase. This included a significant amount of public engagement, goal setting, a lot of market research, and I'll talk about some of the findings that we did, that we had from that work. We looked at competition and trends. We looked at best practices, and I'll show some of those examples from other markets around the country and really around the world. We assessed the condition of the facility, looked at the regulatory and code issues, reviewed the current operation of the facility, and ended up with something called a SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a way of taking all this information and boiling it down kind of to the essence of what's good and bad, and what are the opportunities out there in the future, and what might make it more challenging. So we had a fairly lengthy report that was issued for the phase 1 research. Again, at the end of December, early January. We are currently in the second phase of our work, which is kind of the vision and program. We developed a set of principles to guide the development. We clarified the different programmatic elements, and that means how many square feet of wholesale distribution, how many square feet of farmers market retail, how much restaurant. So really kind of detailed program that we would then accommodate on the site within this 32-acre facility and on the boundaries where we could push a little bit maybe. Spent a good amount of time looking at different opportunities for innovation and partnerships. So innovation around energy, around sustainability, in part in order to lower operating costs. Running a wholesale food market is expensive because there's a lot of refrigeration, and that's a lot of electricity. So what can we do to be more environmentally conscious and a good citizen, but also lower costs for the operators? We are now in the design concept process, looking at different ways the site can be configured to meet that program and to optimize the operation of the market. One of the critical issues, and another basic assumptions we had, is that no one can close. So, these are businesses that operate often, 6 and 7 days a week, and they employ a lot of people. So we want to make sure that we do as little harm as possible during the construction phase. Construction always causes some issues and problems, but we have to keep everyone in business. And that will impact how long it takes to build it. We have to do it in phases, how much it costs, because it's not as efficient. But again, it's critical that you can't just close them down for a year and then come back. It's that they wouldn't survive that. So we're very cognizant of the need to keep all the businesses in operation. And then we're looking at the operations and management. There has been physical deterioration of the facility, but it's also it's a good juncture to look at how it's operated. What's the manpower that's there? What would be kind of best practices in terms of the staff and the leadership for the market? So that's also part of our plan. Looking at the hours of operation and some other operational kind of issues is also part of our phase 2 work. And then the third phase of our work will kind of be the financial and economic analysis. What's it going to cost to build? It will not be cheap. It's 32 acres, and it's again, it needs significant improvement because the sewer lines are 70 years old, and lots of other pieces of the infrastructure are dated. And of course, putting up new buildings and all that. So we're doing some construction cost estimates, an operations pro forma, or looking at what the economics of operations, what's the income and the expenses. It's quite inexpensive to rent space now, but the buildings aren't very good. So there will be some opportunity to raise rents, but we're also very concerned about keeping it very affordable and making sure that the price of food there is very competitive. So trying to find a balancing act between reasonable rents based on the quality of the opportunity, the business opportunity, and the quality of the buildings, and also having enough resources to run it well, to market it well, to bring more customers there, and to pay at least hopefully a good portion, if not all, of the cost of construction. We'll also do economic impact analysis. How many jobs will be created at the market itself based on the master plan, and how many jobs will be created in the community based on the increased economic activity that we can expect to see with a more efficient, larger facility. And then the final piece of our work is looking at what's called sources and uses of funds, which is where's the money going to come from and how do we spend it. So we have at the end of the day, a really full package, a full master plan to understand why we're doing it, what we're doing, what does it cost, what does it look like, and hopefully why it should be funded. I'll say kind of the bottom of this, throughout this process, we've had a steering committee that was put together by the department, so it's kind of co-chaired by Department of Agriculture and Department of Construction Services. We have tenants from the market who participate in the steering committee. We have farmers who participate and some who don't participate or used to participate at the farmers market there. We have the folks in the room. Martha Page from Hartford Food System sits on the steering committee, so a bunch of nonprofits. We have some site neighbors. Our largest site neighbor is Northeast Utilities, which represents kind of the eastern edge of the site, and so we have a representative from them on the steering committee as well. So we have a great group who's been meeting at kind of key points along the master plan route to provide feedback and information and hopefully to be supporters of the plan when it's complete. So I'll kind of get to the research findings in a minute, but let me just kind of outline what we're hoping to accomplish. What will this new facility do for the state of Connecticut, for farmers in Connecticut, for the city of Hartford? So our goals are to create a modern food distribution, production, and marketing facility that supports the evolving needs of Connecticut farmers, food wholesalers, and consumers. And while Connecticut farmers have played an important role there, and they sell there, they buy there, as I've mentioned. We're really trying to kind of put our master plan through that focus of what's really best for Connecticut agriculture. And agriculture is an important sector in your economy. There's, of course, a very long and proud tradition of farming. In the state of Connecticut, I'll show in a minute, the number of farms is growing in the state. How can this facility better meet the evolving needs of farmers and to keep more farmland in production, make sure farmers make money? For so many reasons, it's valuable to have a thriving farm economy. So that's part of it, but a lot of the food that moves through the market is not from Connecticut, and for it to be successful 7 days a week, year round, it's not just about Connecticut agriculture. It's also about meeting other needs for other kinds of buyers and moving food from around the country and around the world. So we're cognizant of all those pieces, but we also want it to be a great place for consumers. And while many people do get up at 5 in the morning and go there on a Saturday in June, we think there's tremendous opportunity it's worth exploring. How can the market do a better job serving the residents of this region from downtown Hartford and others who are really quite close physically to the market, who might have few options to where to find fresh products. There's some really tremendous opportunity for the market to do more in that regard. Our second goal is to encourage increased sales and consumption of Connecticut-grown and produced foods. Again, really, looking at how does this support Connecticut farmers. In the rebuild, we want to minimize energy use and operating costs. Again, keep it so it's an inexpensive place to do business and a very efficient place to do business. We want to improve access to fresh, healthy foods for underserved area consumers. I mean, certainly it's a different world today in 2014 than it was in the 1940s when the market was built. People still needed food, but now the issues around obesity and access to fresh food are so critical. And I know there's lots of things happening in Hartford as they are around the country to address both the causes and the effects of the obesity epidemic and the market. Because of the quantity of fresh food that is available there, we believe can play a very important role and an increasingly important role in the future. As I mentioned, the market already has a lot of jobs. About 500 jobs are there today. There can be more employment at the market. So we want to look at the employment opportunities and see if we can maximize that aspect. We want to incubate businesses and spur innovation. Markets are places historically throughout the evolution of mankind where businesses get started, where innovation happens. And this market, and again, in terms of how it's designed, can have the opportunity to incubate and to spur. And finally, there's this economic imperative, which is we need to make sure that all the income that all the expenses for operating the facility come from the rents or the fees that are generated from within the market. So while today the state of the state of Connecticut, Department of Agriculture runs the market, it's done without subsidy. The fees do cover the cost of operation, so we need to maintain that. What we need is more revenue and then more services and more marketing and some of the things that a good management does because we have enough revenue coming from it. So this is all, again, these are goals that we're trying to pursue, and they're, of course, a balancing act. So as I mentioned, as part of our work, we did a lot of market research. And so this is kind of 11 different things that we did as part of the process, talking to people who are connected to the food and agriculture and different parts of the economy. I interviewed every tenant in the market, really understand their businesses, where they're going, where they'd like to go. We looked at some folks who used to be in the market or who could possibly be in the market who are in the food business around Connecticut to see if they're interested in being in this facility. We looked at a lot of data. I'll share some of that with you, census of agriculture and some other things. We spent a lot of time on site looking about how the market operates. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, we started in September, so we did miss the early morning in June and when in May when the flower season is at its peak. So I saw a lot of photographs and I talked to a lot of people. We were there very early morning a number of times doing interviews and observing how it operates, but not during that peak time. We did a customer intercept survey at the market, so talking to customers at 5, 6, 7 a.m. Over several different Saturdays. We did an internet-based survey that we kind of broadcast out to the community. We did some focus groups with consumers, and we reached out to consumers kind of like we are tonight. We did several focus groups with farmers from around the state to get their input. Again, how could the regional market serve them better? We did some other analysis on where consumers might come from, and then we looked at best practices at other markets. So some of the kind of, just give you a sense of some of the ideas that we were exploring with the farmers and consumers and others was, these are opportunities or choices that can be made. 32 acres is a very nice piece of property in the city, but when you start putting all these different ideas in 32 acres, it gets real small real quick. So it has to be about making choices about what's most beneficial to the community, to the state, to agriculture. So some of the opportunities that we explored, and this was kind of a matrix we kind of developed talking to the farmers, was what's going to serve you best if you're a Connecticut farmer, and then we kind of also looked at it from the consumer side. What's going to serve you best? Having larger facilities for the large wholesalers, of which FreshPoint Cisco kind of represents one of them, but there are several there. Or do we focus on building expand facilities for the small and medium-sized independent ones? The Heart of the Harvest is one of the businesses. You might see their sign if you go by the market, and there are again a bunch of others. Do we expand the farmers market shed? Do we create what's called an indoor winter market, which is an indoor farmers market, a very simple kind of a structure? Do we develop an indoor public market, which is a real retail concept, year-round, daily indoor public market? Do we install a shared commercial kitchen that could be available to farmers from around the state and to community members, perhaps, to rent a time in a commercial kitchen on an hourly basis to do their own food production? They could potentially sell it at the farmers market. Do we create some shared cold storage or freezer space, which is done in some other markets? So a place that people can rent by the pallet to keep their product cold. Do we spend our resources and design the facility to enhance marketing of the Connecticut-grown brand to make consumers more aware and encourage them to buy local? Do we create education facilities and programs, demonstration kitchens, for example, that might be at the facility? And another idea, the final idea that we were kind of thinking about is, do we cluster kind of all the agricultural related organizations? The Department of Agriculture is one, but there are many, the Farm Bureau, groups like the food system, people who are connected to food and agriculture in some way. Would it make sense for them to have a common home at the regional market? So let me share just a little bit of information about some of the research findings. So this is a recount of some of the highlights of the customer intercept survey. So this is a survey we did at the market in the morning, talking face-to-face with customers who were there. And then also the survey we did on the internet, where anyone who's interested could take the survey online. So the top chart is a little bit complicated. There are a lot of bars there. But it just shows the income spread in terms of who we spoke to. And there are 3 different surveys. The blue one is the customer survey, so at the market. The green one being the internet-based survey. And the red is the city of Hartford. This has a point of comparison. So you can see in the red one, many low-income families live in the city of no, I'm taking it back. This is Hartford County. Hartford County data, not the city of Hartford, Hartford County. So you have in the red again, many low-income families, and then kind of tapers down a little bit. So it's fairly flat. In our customer survey, the blue, we had some low-income, certainly some low-income folks, but also some very wealthy folks shopping there. So that was quite interesting to see who's shopping at the market. Kind of the spread between some lower-income households and some quite wealthy households. And then the internet, as you often find on internet-based surveys, kind of skews towards higher income people who spend more time on computers. But below you can see who we talk to in terms of their age. Again, the red being this is in this case the state of Connecticut. The ages kind of spread out around the state. We talked to just a very few young people. A lot of people that are from 50 to 59 when we were here at the market. And then also online, the 50 to 59-year-olds were kind of dominating the internet. So move over, kids. Us old folks are taking over the internet. And I think what was very interesting is that when we did the in-person survey, there weren't a huge number of customers. We did it as soon as we could once we were hired to do the project. So this was in September and early October. So the numbers were thinning out in the morning. But even without that many customers there, we still had customers from every county in Connecticut shopping on a Saturday morning at the farmers market. So that surprised me. I thought it would be more people who just live in and around the city shopping there. But we did have people from every county. We had 43 different zip codes. And in terms of the most prevalent one. That certainly was people who lived nearby. But you can see there's a whole bunch of zip codes. It's really spread out from the region. So people are coming from a pretty spread out from a pretty wide geographic area today to shop at the market. So I thought that was very interesting. This can be interpreted in very different ways. One is the market, if it grows and expands and gets better, it'll keep drawing customers from a very wide geographic area. It also says, hey, maybe there's some opportunity to get more people who live really close, because generally people who live close to a retail facility shop there. And so there's opportunity to grow that aspect, and maybe there are different ways to do that. Already there is a bus line that goes right to the market, but as the facility gets improved and expanded, there are various ways to encourage more folks who live nearby to be aware of the market and to be encouraged to shop there. These are just a few highlights, but one of the things that we could do on the internet survey was to ask people who hadn't been there for quite a long time, why don't you come to the market? And it was very clear that the most common answer to that question was because the hours are so inconvenient. So the market has, as many of you know, very early hours. It kind of peters out often by 8 or 9 a.m. That's not typical retail farmers market hours. And in some ways that's kind of a fun special thing, but I'm not sure it's a winning strategy to get customers there on a regular basis. So it makes us again think as we improve the facility, expand the facility, to really rethink the hours, perhaps having an early morning component that's more on the wholesale basis to serve the function it does today, but to extend the hours and really to build it up as a strong retail farmers market. I think another piece of the research, which I don't have a slide of, but I think it's so interesting, is that that this is the largest farmers market in the state of Connecticut, and in the states around you there are much larger farmers markets, and I guess it's a cultural phenomenon. Like so many things in Connecticut, you have these very small towns, and they all have their own little farmers market, and there aren't that many big cities. You don't have very many big city farmers markets. Even a city of Hartford, which is the largest, or a large one. So there's a cultural thing happening there, or maybe there's just a missed opportunity that this, with the right improvements and marketing and other aspects, you really could get a farmers market of what would be a scale more typical of your neighbors. Where I live in Portland, Maine, we're a city of 63,000 people. We have 70 farmers in our Saturday morning farmers market. And that would be by far the largest farmers market in Connecticut. So there's some cultural things that need to be, addressed or evaluated, but there seems to be some real potential to build in the right environment a much larger farmers market with more convenient hours. The customers that come to the market shop at the outdoor farmers market, but many of them also shop from the wholesalers who open up on Saturdays and sell retail from their docks. And that connection between the wholesalers selling retail and the farmers, we think, is a very important one. And when we get into the design phase, we'll be looking at really strengthening that relationship. Many of those wholesalers want to sell retail, and they are an important key to ensuring that there is fresh food available at the market every day. They want to do more retail. Their design doesn't work for it really well today because you have to walk up the docks, and they're doing their wholesale business, and it's not the most comfortable place to shop as a consumer. We think there's a great opportunity, and they want to do more on the retail side, and we can design it in a way that really works for them and also enhances the ability to expand the retail components. And finally, the image on the right is we asked a whole series of questions about what products would you like to see sold if we do create this this indoor market, this daily retail. What are the things that you'd like to see? And we asked people to rank it between 1 and 5. So these are the average rankings, and I've divided between the internet survey in red and the customer survey in blue. So the dominant one was more fruits and vegetables is what people want to see, and that's of course the strongest component of the market today. And it's the kind of it's what they're looking for, more fruits and vegetables, but also cheese, some basic foods, some cheese, breads, meats, seafood. It's the prepared foods, especially products, got much lower rankings, particularly among the customers who are there today, who are really coming there for their basic products. So this is not to say that you might not have some prepared foods, you might not have someone who sells some other things, but we certainly want to make sure that we have, what folks are looking for, and we can recruit, vendors or farmers to sell those products. In terms of the market tenants, as I mentioned, I interviewed every tenant in the market, so all 16 of the tenants, some of them more than once. And there are a couple of things that just really struck me. So they're working in these really quite degraded facilities. They're substandard. They're very low height in there. They're not meeting all the modern food safety requirements. But these folks are survivors, and some of them have been there for generations, and they're incredibly optimistic that they think there's so much business to be had if they had the right facilities. So again, these are some independent, small, medium-sized businesses, and they want to be there. They want to expand. They want new facilities. They're willing to pay more. All the right things, in terms of which I'd like to hear, as opposed to some other, markets projects I've done where you talk to these guys and they're like, oh, there's no hope here. There's no future. We can't do anything right. So, when we ask them, what kind of space would you like? I mean, they want to double their square footage. They really want more and proper facilities. They recognize the market potential. We've gotten through this recession. There's business to be had, and they want these, the proper facilities to make it work. There are also other produce wholesalers in the region who are interested in coming back to the market. Someone used to be here. Again, they recognize how valuable the location is, the benefits of being in a market environment where customers can buy from multiple folks, where there's some internal trade that happens. They want to come back. And then the last image here, that box with the green, yellow, and red, is the ranking that the farmers that we met with and did these focus groups, these kind of group meetings with farmers, and we asked them to do some scoring with dots, colored dots. So which of these ideas are the most important ones to support your farm and other Connecticut farmers? And what the farmers told, this subgroup of farmers, and it's not representative of the whole state, but it was a good engaged group of farmers who participated. What they want to see is kind of enhanced marketing. They are really promoting the Connecticut grow and creating more demand for Connecticut products. They want to see expansion among the small and medium-sized wholesalers. One thing I want to mention is that there is a fairly recent tenant at the market, is a co-op or a group of Connecticut farmers, the Farmer's Cow, whose milk is now available widely. So they do their distribution, some of their distribution from the Hartford regional market. So they are kind of, to me, a great tenant. They're a local farmer. They're Connecticut product, using the locational advantages. So those kind of businesses that might be an opportunity to expand. And then expanding the farmers market and having these education facilities. So those are kind of the top 4 ranked among the farmers that we worked with. So here's something which I think is a little bit of data about farming in Connecticut, which I think is really quite interesting. The first slide is the first image on the left there shows the number of farms in the state of Connecticut dating back to 1964. And if you go further back than that, generally you'll have even, of course, higher number of farms. And what people were saying in kind of the mid-'80s was, and this shape is fairly similar to the shape of farming in America. In the mid-'80s, people were saying, we're not going to have any farms left in America, because just look at the trend line. It's going down, down, down. It did for decades, going down and down. And the economists were saying, well, land in America is too valuable. We'll just outsource our farming to China and South America and Mexico. And there's no need to have farmers in America anymore. Well, without much help from the federal government, for sure, there has been this historic turnaround in the number of farms. And it's happened here in Connecticut. And this is kind of coincidental, of course, with the interest in buying local, and these things are working together. So these are many folks are getting into farming, in part because it's a better alternative now, or has been because the economy has been so bad, but also because people are seeing real value and it's kind of back to the land, having your own business, working the soil, and finding markets for their products, particularly in farmers markets, farm stands, community-supported agriculture, or what the federal government, the USDA, calls direct marketing, so directly from the farmer to consumer. And so that has been a big driver in the increase in the number of farmers. Now, I want to distinguish here between farms and farmland. The picture of farmland would look a little different. There's not necessarily more farmland in production. There are more farmers working the soil, and they're often working on smaller plots. So there's been a growth of small farms around the country. Some very intensive farms, what's called specialty crops, which to me is not special at all. It's fruits and vegetables, what I try to make my diet predominant of. Unfortunately, USDA calls that specialty crops. So there's been this growth of direct marketing, and it's been quite pronounced. So the in 1992, the federal government started collecting data for the first time on farmers selling directly to consumers. Again, that's farmers selling at farmers markets, community-supported agriculture, where people prepay for a season, on U-pick operations on the farm or farm stands. So those are the four principal methods of a farmer selling directly to a consumer. And you can see on the far right, in the United States, there's been this very large growth from 4.5% of farmers in America participating in direct marketing up to 6.2%. So that's 50% or so increase. That's a very significant increase. But look at Connecticut. In 1992, already 19% of farmers were participating, and by 2007, it was up to 22%. So nearly a quarter of all farms in the state of Connecticut are doing direct marketing. So it's an essential part of the farm situation here, and it's even bigger in Hartford County. 25% of farms reported selling directly to consumers. So this is a very important trend, and as I mentioned, in Connecticut, there are all these little farmers markets, 114 at last count, or some very large number, spread out, but there aren't any big ones, 30, 40, 50 or more farmers like you see in other places. So to me, this represents a tremendous opportunity. Again, the farmers want it, the trends are there, the consumers want it, and with the right facility and the right location, I think there could be a great opportunity for the infrastructure to support more farmers markets. And then you look at it from the dollar perspective, it's even a more dramatic increase from 1992, but a little over $5 million reported by 2007, over $30 million of trade. And unfortunately, the 2012 census is still not, agricultural census is still not available. They're saying now it will be available in May. I use a straight line, that trend line. I mean, it very well could be a more geometric progression. It could be well over, close to $50 million by now. I wouldn't be surprised, because these things are really taking off here in Connecticut and across the country. It's also interesting to look, where are the farms, where's the farmland. So here are the eight counties in Connecticut, and this is the good soils and where a lot of the farmers are. So a very large number of farmers are right here around in Hartford County, 790 farms in Hartford County, and some of the best soils are right here as well. So again, a lot of reasons why I think the Hartford regional market makes a lot of sense to be a place to have a really strong farmers market. So let me, and we're moving on time here. Let me just talk about, and the end of my presentation is about some other facilities. What else is happening around the country? When we did the online survey, a couple people said, go to Rochester. It's a great market in Rochester. You can learn a lot from there. Well, it just so happens I just did a master plan for the Rochester Public Market, so I actually know a lot about the Rochester Public Market. It is a great market. This is a city-run facility. So it's a public sector running it the same way the Department of Agriculture runs through the Connecticut Marketing Authority runs the market here in Hartford. It's in the kind of the heart of a low-income neighborhood, right, not very far from the downtown. It is extremely popular in the spring, although it's actually popular all the time. They typically have 40,000 customers coming on a Saturday morning to the market. It's the most happening thing in the city of Rochester, and it's tremendously popular, and it's grown in popularity. They have these sheds. So that U shape is existing, and the one on the bottom is there, and on the bottom is there too. So they have these very large sheds. They have an indoor, what they call a winter market, but it's kind of like a quasi-indoor public market. As part of our master plan, we recommended expanding the amount of outdoor farmers market shed to create some winter shed, by which we meant just roll down garage doors to take off the wind in the winter, because they go year round. The farmers are there every Saturday year round. And then to really make some improvements to the indoor building to increase the retail. The objectives here in Rochester were to really turn it into a 7-day-week operation. Today it's really good 2 days, it's pretty good a third day. They have a lot of activity there on Sunday. So it's really about maximizing the benefit and trying to spread out the opportunity for more days. There's also some wholesale houses happen here. So there is wholesale here. It's not as big a deal as it is in Hartford, but it has many of the same components. So this is, I think, a very interesting model and a really good example of how strong an outdoor market can be. Another interesting example where there's been lots of growth and investment recently is in Detroit. Now, we generally hear horrible things about happening in Detroit, and I think most of it is deserved because it's a very sad place. But the Eastern Market, which is only about a mile from the downtown core, is a wonderful place, and it has been in operations since the 1890s. And on a Saturday, people from the whole region shop there, so you see, a huge mix of people. It's extremely popular, and it's a real bright spot in the city. It's also, again, a wholesale and retail operation. Some of the wholesale has gone down over the decades, and they're making some efforts to bring it back. It's an important hub for Michigan farmers and from Northwest Ohio. Very strong retail market. They've done some great things with partnering with nonprofits in the community. So Grown in Detroit is one of the groups. There's been a big effort in Detroit to do more urban agriculture. There's so much vacant land there. There's great opportunities to do farming, and folks are doing it. So they've really led the way. They've also been great in Detroit about getting a lot of investment from the foundation community, which is very strong in Detroit area. And so I think we certainly have something to learn from them in terms of what are the opportunities here in Hartford, that not all this investment need be either the state of Connecticut or the tenants themselves making the investment. There are some other folks who are interested in these issues, major philanthropies that are interested in these issues. Perhaps some of the educational spaces and some of the market shed could be they could be attracted to make investments along with leveraging the public and private sector investments as well. Another interesting model of a recently redeveloped market is in South Carolina. At the state capital of Columbia. They have created some very large sheds for the farmers there. They have a building that has some nice educational facilities, demonstration kitchen, you see on the bottom left. They create an education building and office building that has a shared commercial kitchen. So some of the ideas that we've been exploring here in Hartford, we're done on this project as well. A wonderful example is not in the United States, but is in Paris at the Rungis market. And Rungis is the largest food market in the world. But what's particularly interesting for me here is they built a building just for farmers from the Ile-de-France region, which is kind of 90 kilometers right around Paris. So they're very tight in, closest in agriculture around Paris. They have their own buildings. You have to be a farmer from that area, and they're bringing in the freshest, most wonderful food products. So they made a very simple facility to support them, and they support, but they also have layered on marketing and support and kind of distinguishing this hyper-local, if you will, foods, really concentrating on the best taste. So they actually put brands on things, not just on how it looks and its size, the way we do in America, but imagine this radical idea, how it tastes. And so you get special gold stickers if you have a certain amount of sweetness, if you're a pear, or all these different things. So there's some really interesting advancements happening that will be interesting ways to think about, again, Connecticut agriculture. What are the advantages of being so local? It's not just local, it's got to be better. It's got to be really tasty and fresh picked and close, and there are ways to guarantee that and you brand it that way and sell it that way to increase the value to the farmer and increase the value of why you want to shop here at the regional market. And the final project I want to talk about is a new public market that just opened in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was hired in 2009 to do a feasibility study and kind of a master plan for this idea, which is to create a new facility in Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is the second largest city in Michigan on the western side of the state, nothing like Detroit in a lot of ways. We just opened this facility up in August. So this is a brand new, fairly expensive, $28 million mixed-use development, but it has some, I think, very interesting components and some interesting parallels to here. One is the location is on the southern edge of downtown next to a highway with great highway visibility. We put it, in this case, we chose the location because of the highway visibility, something that you have already here in Hartford. And you can see a few images of the market there from its opening. It has some unique facilities. I mean, the downstairs is the market hall, has the outdoor farmers market. We have a rooftop greenhouse, and the reason there's a greenhouse on the roof is because we're thinking about, well, everyone has a green roof in Grand Rapids. What can we do? What's the next thing? So we said, how about a greenhouse? And they were crazy enough to say, let's do it, because it actually turned out to be quite expensive to put a greenhouse on a roof, although this is happening in other places, particularly in New York City. The benefit here, one of the benefits and reasons we did it, is that we're adjacent to an elevated highway, the same way it is in Hartford. So when you drive by, you see this greenhouse. That just says immediately, we're the place of local foods. At the nighttime, it's illuminated, so it's a great a beacon to get you to the market. And it also, we capture rainwater in the project and recycle it, and the heat gets pumped through the building and it's in the greenhouse. And it's also, of course, a tremendous educational facility, both for consumers and for farmers. The ground floor of the market has an outdoor farmers market shed, an indoor market hall, restaurants, and other office spaces. So you get some images. So the independent fresh food businesses downstairs. There are so many farmers in West Michigan that in their first year they had 70 farmers, and a brand new market. So it's really quite extraordinary. But there's so much interest and popularity, of buying directly from the farmer. The second floor, we have a lot of interesting ideas here. So the greenhouses I already mentioned. The project has a shared commercial kitchen, so that can be rented on a 3 or 4 hour shift basis by people in the community to do catering, to do their own food products. The market provides a variety of support services in partnership with local universities to support those small entrepreneurs. It's also used by vendors in the market who need extra production space, so it has multiple functions. The education space there on the left was rented by the county school district, and they have the high school culinary program is there 5 days a week. So students are in the market every school day, and they're using the shared kitchen, and they're learning about it's as you have here in Hartford, these culinary programs to prepare kids for careers in the food business. We have some meeting rooms there. The meetings and the events have been very popular. It's actually a very important income source for the market and a great community space. And we have what I believe is the first ever demonstration kitchen designed for kids. And this is something I'm particularly proud of. We came up with a scheme where there are these cooking surfaces, and they're on hydraulic lifts. So they're normal 36-inch height, like in your kitchen. You push a button, and it goes down to 30 inches. So a 7-year-old could stand at a stove, learn how to cook. But in the market, it's more than just learning how to cook. You start in the greenhouse. You see how broccoli grows. You harvest the broccoli. You come into the kids' kitchen. You get to clean it, sample it, wash it, cook it. There's an area to eat, and then you can go downstairs with your parents and buy the product. So we're addressing food access, we're addressing food education, we're trying to get kids really excited about food. And to me, I think this is a pathway, an important pathway to think about, addressing obesity. So these are some ideas and some of the things that we've been thinking about at the regional market. We can build the facilities for if it makes sense. And perhaps again there are some funding sources that would be outside of the kind of commonplace ones that could do some of these very special things that would serve that really could serve the community. And there's some images of the kitchen and other things. All right, so I'm going to go through this. Amy, this is my last slide. So this is again, we ended up with these principles of, which will guide the development and design and just, basically to do it right and to meet those goals. We're very confident that we can come up with a design, a plan that'll work. The plan, it will not be inexpensive, as I mentioned before, 32 acres. There needs to be new buildings. There's some important site work, underground utility stuff you don't see, but which is quite expensive. So that'll be the master plan. I mean, we're aiming to get it done by the spring. So the commissioner and others will have the plan in place, and hopefully there will be then next step to raise the funds to move the project forward. So that's my presentation, and I look forward to answering any questions or having a conversation about this idea or markets in general. This is being recorded for the Academy Awards, and so there's a microphone. So if you have a question, please take a mic to ask your question so they can be recorded.
I have only one question. Is this property always going to be belonging to the state?
I believe so. There's no plan to dispose of it.
Well, I know someone here has thought about it, but I was thinking, since it's going to be state property, and the state want to invest in making the community better and making the products cheaper, why not try maybe solar panel on the whole rooftop.
Solar panels?
Yes.
A great idea. We're thinking about it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of roof space, and solar panels could make a lot of sense. There's no trees. We could use a little more sun. Well, today was good. But yeah, I think that it could be a very effective way to lower energy costs and to be environmentally responsible. So yeah, that's a great idea. Who else? Yeah.
How about geothermal? Has any thought been given to that?
Yeah, we are looking at that. Now, I'm not an engineer, and so I can't speak really knowledgeably, but what I've heard is that geothermal systems work really well when you have demand for both heat and refrigeration. It kind of goes back and forth, and when you sink, you add heat in, and then you take cold out, and back and forth. The market needs mainly cold. It doesn't need much heat. So it's
How about in the winter?
We are looking at it. We're absolutely looking at it. We have engineers who are looking exactly at all these kind of issues. This is all the information I have so far is that it doesn't work as well for these kind of systems. That's
The
all I
other
know.
question is, you're going to knock down some buildings. Are you going to recycle any of the products?
Ideally, there is some heavy timber in those buildings, from the 40s, and so ideally we'll be able to recapture, if it's good quality, we'll be able to recapture that and use it as part probably of the farmers market shed. When we built the project in Grand Rapids, there had been actually some old warehouses on the site. We originally were looking to reuse them. It turned to be not cost effective to do that and really a compromise to the design. But we were able to capture a lot of the wood and recycle a lot of the products on site and use them. And they add a wonderful sense to the project. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned somewhere earlier the underserved community, particularly in Hartford. I mean, there are farmers markets, not as many as we would like, but there are ones, during different days of the week and so forth, but they're located in not all the neighborhoods, but some of them. And I wouldn't want to see those go away because they were overwhelmed by this, very great-looking intentions you have here. The other thing, has you given any thought to increased transportation? Because probably the people who got to this meeting, most of the people can get in their car and drive down to the South Meadows. But the underserved people are people who don't have cars, rely on buses, and I suspect there are no buses.
No, there is a bus.
But one, probably.
There's a bus line that goes, the bus line that goes right to the market now.
May have to, but it
absolutely.
may require some talking to Commissioner Rediker to increase the buses back, I assume, to downtown where people then can take.
Yeah, I think that's the route now. It goes to downtown. Again, it's not very far. Many people who ride the bus to now are employees at the market, and one of the reasons, another great locational advantage of being at the regional market is you're near a very strong employment base, and some people who can actually get to the market by bus. So the plan will have a dedicated bus stop, and it'll be well taken care of in the plan and traction. It makes more sense now to make the investments, on the pedestrian improvements between the two and the bike lanes and all those things. So, hopefully, again, if the plan moves forward, there'll be lots of opportunity to increase that connectivity and make it easier. Anyone else? Yeah.
First, I just wanted to compliment you on covering so many different aspects of this. You've got like so many populations, and a state that doesn't really have regional in its vocabulary. You've kind of discovered the 169 versions of things. Economies of scale just never really, caught on. So I think it's fabulous that you seem to be pulling all of that in. And I'm just curious in terms of this. You seem to have gotten to know the Hartford area so well. Do you use local architects? Are there ways that your company works with local suppliers? Yeah.
So our team currently has local architects. We're working on our team now. Is SLAM, the SLAM Collaborative. We're based in Glastonbury. I think they're the largest architecture firm in the state.
Yeah.
We also have one of our engineering groups, Mylone and McBroom, are local engineering firms. So it depends what piece of it. The way I've often got involved with projects, I work with, and who's involved with our team here is an architect named Hugh Boyd. He's based in Montclair, New Jersey. He's a specialist in markets. That's almost all his work. So when projects lead to implementation and when they're selected, he often teams up with a local firm. So in Grand Rapids, he was a design architect, but it was the architect of record with a local firm, and they provide most of the manpower to the job. So there's some real specialized pieces of this, and there's local knowledge, and we try to blend, blend
And
best of
I
both.
think anything in Connecticut that brings people out of the city into the city is a good thing.
Yeah.
Just keep recycling those people.
Great. Sir, right in front had a question.
Hi. I think everyone agrees that the Hartford regional market or the Connecticut regional market it's a huge opportunity. It's probably really exciting. I'm just sort of curious that if the state, potentially is going to look to redevelop the land, and it already owns land in other parts in the city, why it's not being considered to change the location. There's other locations where, you can make it central in the city, and it could just make it easier. You wouldn't have to worry about transportation issues because transportation issues are already taken care of.
Well, I think, again, the core business here and what we're reinforcing is the wholesale distribution, and that's really important to Connecticut farmers. So on our scope, I mean, maybe the commissioner wants to answer that question, but our scope was to look at this particular facility. We didn't do a whole massive site selection process, which would have its own range of issues. But from my perspective, and in terms of, again, and those who I spoke with who are in the market today and who want to rent space in the market, it's an ideal location because of its connection to 91 and to 84. And so maybe there are some other locations that would work too, but it works. The other piece is that there are a lot of people who know it, and a lot of people who do shop there. And so when you do make it, not that you can't move a market, but there is benefit to that historical connection. We have tremendous opportunity to use the signs that are there now and add more signs, and it'll be so visible, and it'll be a big splash if it does, when hopefully soon, it does get rebuilt. That I think there really are a lot of locational advantages to where it's at. But Commissioner, did you want to add anything?
So actually, it goes a little bit to the question that was asked earlier, whether or not our vision includes competition with the neighborhood farmers markets, and really, it does not. We want to encourage and support those local markets so they flourish close to people where people live, and this is a different kind of market because it really is the majority of the business here is focused on the wholesale trade. So we have literally hundreds of trailer trucks moving in and out of this wholesale market. But in addition to that, what sets us apart from other food hubs across the country is the fact that we have a farmer's market associated with it, which does provide a direct consumer component to it, which we want to increase and encourage as well. So we don't want to only focus on the public market aspect of it, but we want to marry that public market aspect or the consumer aspect with that wholesale trade. And this is a major employer in the city of Hartford, and it's amazing as generations change how many people drive by it and really don't even know it's there. And so we want to bring that back.
What they see is the big Cisco sign. This is not a place for me.
Yes, ma'am.
You're preaching to the choir.
This looks a lot like the way I sort of love to do things, which is to have a marvelous plan and do a lot of research and really dream dreams. At the very end, last thing, is figure out where the money's going to come from. Where is the money going to come from to put this all up?
Well, we're not totally sure yet. We're not all the way there. But the way these projects have been funded in other places, it typically includes a significant amount of state money. Ideally, much of that will be from revenue bonds, which means that the rents that are coming from the market will offset, will pay the cost of the bond. There might need to be some general obligation bond. Again, we don't know. Historically has been federal investment in markets. The Farm Bill is more friendly today than it was a month ago to these kind of projects, and we're still investigating kind of federal sources that could be appropriate for here. Again, there could be some philanthropic sources that could add some value probably on the margins, to add some of the interesting components. So we're exploring a variety of different things. Oh, and the vendors themselves will make some significant investment. They will not be handed a turnkey operation, but they will, typically. Typically, the market builds the shell and owns the shell, but they have to pay for the refrigeration technology and the refrigeration, which is a really major expense of fitting out a warehouse, as well as other investments. So there'll be private investment here that coming through the tenants, and And then probably funding from a variety of other sources. Again, Commissioner, do you want to add anything about the funding piece?
I think you've answered it quite well, but the challenge here from the governor is to make this a true private-public partnership, and that's how this market has existed through the decades. And while the state provides some seed money to make it happen, to build this type of market is going to require an investment from the tenants at the market. And as Ted said, revenue bonds can be floated to support a good portion of what we're trying to accomplish here. And then the balance would be under general obligation bonds, and I don't know what those numbers will turn out to be. And we are beginning conversation with the philanthropic community, and I think that there are key elements of what we're talking about here that they are excited about and open to helping us funding. Well, and education part, and we are working on doing a food processing center, even in the existing facilities that we have there now. We got a grant, a specialty crop block grant from the United States Department of Agriculture, and we're working with the Rutgers Food Innovation Center to design a commercial kitchen for there, and all of that equipment can then be relocated if and when we build new facilities there. So we're looking at doing a lot more value added. I mean, it's one thing to be able to sell tomatoes and other things, but it's quite another thing to be able to sell salsas and tomato sauces and other foods. Why don't you keep that? Okay.
Yes, I'm just working. Yes, I was just wondering if when you have the plan developed, will you come back and show us the actual plan for the Hartford regional market?
Did I mention that I was a consultant? Yeah. Yeah. It's what I do for a living. So yeah, who knows what the future holds? But this has been a great project so far. I don't live very far away, and it's yeah, absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
Right in front of you, there's a question.
You've had a couple of questions about the city of Hartford. People have been sort of poking around this topic. I think the city of Hartford has a lot of property that is taken up by the state of Connecticut, which we don't receive taxes on. It's kind of a sore point for us. This is a huge chunk of land, and I do believe people will benefit by getting good food and having access, but it's the tax thing. It's the lack of revenues that are going to go directly into the city of Hartford's coffers. Just a statement.
It is a tax-exempt property. You're absolutely right. Over here, there's oh. Can you hand it? Oh no, he's gone.
I'm curious in the plan how you compared Hartford to other cities. The population, if population of the greater Hartford area is able to keep this kind of venture going, and how would it compare to Detroit as far as income, not just the accessibility, but the general population?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we looked at that very carefully, and that's in part why we are recommending kind of a more incremental approach to the retail side, where you're not, as I mentioned, one of the ideas was kind of creating a standalone retail public market kind of concept, was kind of like the Grand Rapids project. We recommended not to do that. We can accomplish the goals of the retail, we felt, by incrementally growing the farmers market, and maybe adding some components like kind of some roll-down garage doors and kind of simple ways to make the winter market to keep the farmers there longer, and by working with the wholesalers who are there, many of whom sell retail today and want to sell more retail. So it's a very kind of low-cost way, simple way to get more retail there on a regular basis. Design the facility so it's appropriate for retail. So, for example, one of the design ideas we're looking at will have a warehouse where on one side it'll be for the big trucks and the 4-foot loading dock and designed for that, and then the other side will be kind of at grade, so a pedestrian can walk right up to it and shop. So and in the same building you might have Capital Sausage, which makes wonderful sausages, making it on the wholesale, shipping out the back, and having a meat shop in the front. So now we have a great meat vendor there doing their both businesses, which is how they want to expand. You might have, again, an M&M Produce or Northeast Produce or some of these other produce companies who want to expand and do more retail and have their, again, out the back door goes their trucks and distributing to restaurants and retailers all over the region. And the front has a wonderful produce business that operates 6-7 days a week. So it's a way that we can get we think a really good range of fresh foods available for sale on a regular basis that's appropriate for the way the market is used today, which is predominantly on the weekends, and then grow it over time, hopefully to more days of the week, without doing a more risky kind of standalone retail venture, which we felt wouldn't work necessarily or would be too risky to try. So again, so as part of the phase 1 report, we looked very carefully at the demographics, and of course, like a lot of things in Connecticut, you have clusters of low income, and you have some very wealthy folks here too. And again, I was so pleased when we know that already today in this somewhat degraded facility, where when it rains it kind of floods, and there are issues there, you get very wealthy people from all over the state shopping there already. So it seems to me that if we keep the funky atmosphere and spirit, which people really love, but make it so it's pleasant for everybody and kind of make it a little more functional, we can do an even better job of attracting more people. So we don't want to make it, fancy and drive anyone away. It's got to be that place that everyone feels comfortable shopping. The prices have to be really good, have to be, worth driving that hour to get there. And again, at least based on our experience in other cities that are bigger and smaller than Hartford, there's tremendous potential to grow it, we think. So we're going to recommend building some larger farmers market structures, better looking, better lit, better designed, but maybe they're done in phases. I mean, so we might recommend 300 feet of it, but this phase 1 build 150 feet or whatever it is, so it can expand over time if the demand is there and it grows appropriately. So there are a lot of different ways that we can kind of approach it to be appropriately scaled for the opportunity.
Have you done other markets where there was already an existing market?
Oh, absolutely.
And my question is, did the employment stay the same, increase, or decrease based on people paying more money for their space and everything?
Well, all our projects are great. I don't know. I'm not sure that I can generalize that. I'd have to look at them kind of individually. I mean, there are kind of America is divided. Well, my slice of America is divided into kind of 2 universes. One is these historic markets. Some of them are very old. I'm working right now in Baltimore, Lexington market, which dates to the 1780s, and so we're doing a master plan, really trying to improve that market. And then we have some really new developments, like the market in Grand Rapids. So in Grand Rapids, we have 300 jobs are created in the market. 30 or so new businesses. I mean, a lot of things are happening, but it's also very young. We created a new market in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which has been very successful and has 20-some businesses in it, and again, many jobs. So they're all a little different. And as I mentioned, when I started, all these markets are different. We have the opportunity here to really improve the safety, the scale, the volume of business, and which I think relates to more jobs. So I think there's tremendous potential here to increase the job base.
I'm really concerned about that because we have very few places in the city of Hartford where people work that live in the city, or live in and around the city of Hartford. Yeah. And so I would not want to see that decrease.
Oh, no.
No, I mean, want to see it either remain the same or increase as a means.
Well, absolutely. And as I said, one of our goals of the project is to increase jobs. And if we're not doing that, then we haven't done then it's not a good plan. So, sir, did you have a? Why don't we? It's getting pretty late. 7:20. Which we've wrapped maybe 2 more. Sure. Is that good? Okay.
Is it possible to provide a website that would allow ongoing updates for the participants here to?
The commissioner is handing the mic to his public information director.
And also, are the slides that you provided today available?
Yeah, I mean, I can make them available. I'll talk to Richard how that's done. I'm sure there's a way to do that.
We are working at the Department of Agriculture to get materials up on our website. We have some challenges with the enormity of some of the files in terms of the drawings and so forth. So we're working on trying to package those into smaller bits that we can get on the website so they would be easily accessible to people without having to wait 5 minutes for it to download. So we're in the process of doing that.
So we should direct our attention to your
Department of
site,
Agriculture's website, which is ctgrown.gov.
Any last question? Good, we exhausted them. Oh, anyone else? No, go ahead. One more.
Is this the only regional market in Connecticut?
That's currently standing. There were 3. There's one in New Haven and one in New London. So the one in New Haven was privatized. So it's right by the IKEA. So there's still some food distributors right back behind there, but it's no longer run by the state. I don't know when that happened, how long ago that flipped. A long time ago. And there was one in New London. So yeah, this is the last one standing.
Is there any thought about having others? Because we spend so much money bringing food, transporting food from one location to another. I mean, I really don't want to drive an hour to get food. So if I lived in New London, I wouldn't want to drive to Hartford.
So there is a lot of discussion going on about the local food system and the recreation of more localized food hubs. And I think that's not only happening here, it's happening all across the country. So it is, what's old is new again. Is that how it goes? But I mean, that is the focus, to try to get it closer to home, to reduce the numbers of miles that food travels from farm to plate.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for coming out. I hope this was informative, and we'll see you at the market.
Don't forget your green. What, I'm waving it. There's nothing in my hand.
Please fill out your
sheets. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ted.